Hello everyone, my name is Sandy. I'm an artist and illustrator. I moved to the UK Sutton for nearly 2 years. Actually, I'm from Macau. Because not many people know where Macau is in the UK, so every time I need to explain, Macau is a city next to Hong Kong, and it was colonized by Portugal before and handed over to China in 1999. Very long story. My original name is Ying. Of course, it's a Portuguese translation. My Chinese name has a special meaning. That means a piece of jade waiting for polishing. This is an expectation of my parents. Today, I would like to share my family stories to you, involving 3 generations, 3 women in my family. My granny, my mom, and me. Chapter 1. Grandmother. My granny lived in a city called Sutton of China. But when I was young, many people told me actually she was from another country called Malaysia. They like to call Malaysia as Dai Ma in Cantonese, my first language. I was very confused because the pronunciation of Dai Ma is the same as big horse. So I was just very wonder where my granny was. She's from a big horse. Or the big house she was living called big horse. Big horse or big house. Very confusing. What does home mean? What does home mean? Is it selling a house? Is it buying a house? Is it moving to a new place? Should we just live on a horse? Should we live on a house? House or horse? House or horse? House or horse? Of course, when I grew up, I know where Malaysia is. It's not a horse nor a house. It's a Southeast Asian country. I just wonder why my granny moved from that country to China. Actually, it's quite far away. But my granny never mentioned her past. I could only ask my mom. My mom said, your granny has experienced some dark history in her country. Dark history? Yes. In 1960, there was an anti-Chinese movement in Southeast Asian countries. So many Chinese people fled from their country to different parts of the world. Your granny was one of them. So did she go with her parents? No. Actually, when she came back, her parents already passed away. Why? Because they were too old. They just want the next generation to live in a safe and new place, have a new life in a new place. After I knew it, I was very sad. I couldn't imagine you need to leave your parents in a dangerous country and then go to somewhere you never known before without any friends and relatives. I couldn't fall asleep at that night. What I remember most about my granny was her bag. She has quite a big head, round body, and strong arms. And she was always very, very busy. Busy for different things like go shopping. Like she would go to post office for calls. Like she would go for meeting. Yes, she always went for meetings because she was a representative for women in her community. So she always helped them different things like education, like family, and children. She was very, very helpful. But sometimes she liked to stay at home, very quietly, sewing. When she sewed, her arms returned to be very, very gentle, and the room also turned to be very peaceful and quiet. I like that moment. In the past, the people really adhere to the principle of waste not. That means they won't waste anything in their daily life. My granny, she was very good at sewing, so she liked to use the leftover or the very, very small piece of fabric to make patchwork. Patchwork is commonly known as 百家宝 in Chinese. 百家宝 means we are sewing 100 families' fabric into a whole one. I really like this name. Feels like we are connecting 100 families' stories into a new life. My granny would like to ask my mom to get the fabric from the garment factory, and she would make the patchwork to different things, like the clothes for us or pillow. The pillow she made was very colorful and the texture was very, very good, very, very beautiful. And I like to touch the fabric, particularly in the connection between two fabrics. They have very different pattern, very different shape, yet they are in a whole one now. When my granny cooked in the kitchen, I like to play the fabric and pillow in the living room. She likes to add so many spices and ingredients into the curry, like chopped onions, cumin, chili powder. And very important is the coconut milk, because the milk can make the curry become much richer. When she cooked in the kitchen, I like to play in the living room, and she would say, 唔好玩啦，係時候開飯啦。Don't play around. Dinner is ready to serve. At the age of 3, it's my time I need to go back to Macau for my kindergarten study. I couldn't stay with her anymore. I cried not wanting to go. My granny brought me to the kitchen and let me see her back again. I asked my granny, "Granny, can I please not go?" She didn't answer. So I repeat, "Granny, can I please not go?" Granny replied, "你好快就返嚟㗎啦. You are coming back very soon." When the time was up, I still need to carry my luggage, follow my mom, ran through the trap bomb, went to another home in Macau. It's also I learned how to say goodbye to her. Many years later, she got older. She was very sick in the hospital, so we rent a car to visit her every week. Exactly before my business trip, I went to see her again. At that time, her very round and strong body has already shrunk like a small baby. When I held her hands, it was as weak as grasping a needle, but had a very, very strong desire to hold on. On the second day of my business trip, she left the world. Chapter 2. Mother. When did my granny teach my mom how to use needle and thread? She couldn't remember. She only remembered when she was young. There were not so many toys around her, so she could only make by herself. Then she picked up the sewing skill and knew how to use sewing machine very naturally. But unlike her sister, she didn't like to stay at home and always play the dolls with the girls. She liked to chase around on a hill with her brother, my uncle. So when she played, her trousers were always torn by fences. If her parents didn't have time to mend it for her, she needed to do it by herself. Then my granny always said, "Very easy to recognize which one is your mom," because her trousers were full of patches. This is her patchwork. Let's look into my mom's wardrobe. Let's look into my mom's wardrobe. What should be in a girl's wardrobe? Pink or red color? Skirt or dress? No, I don't like it. I like t-shirt. I like trousers. I know there's so many patterns on it and make it. I don't like to play dolls. I like to play the chase along with my brother on a hill. I'm not boyish or girlish. I just want to be myself. Why not? Yes, this is my mom. She always tries to make decisions by herself. In 1980s, when she decided to move from China to Macau, Macau was still under Portugal, so going there feels like going abroad. Before she left, my granny gave her 2 presents. The first present was a gold ring, hairloop gold ring. She said, in a foreign country, it's easy for you to swap money. Another present was a patch of sewing kit. She said it may come in handy. Since then, my mom picked up a habit. When she traveled, she always picked up this one, sewing kit. Feels like it's a memory of her mom. Indeed, she has ever sold for so many people, like her friends and families, for the certain tiers of their trousers or clothes. Seems like she has collected so many people around her. She would never imagine this sewing skill will turn to be her livelihood after she moved to Macau. She has become a garment worker for nearly 30 years. In 1970s and 1980s, there was large amount of Chinese migrants and illegal migrants moved to Hong Kong and Macau. They brought a significant labor to that regions. Because they also benefit from the international tax-free status, so many garment factories moved to there. As a new migrant, my mom, even though she was graduated from high school and had a very excellent Chinese writing skill, however, she didn't get any network. She didn't understand English and Portuguese, so it's very hard for her to work at office. However, she has a very good, very skillful hands. She could work in a garment factory. Besides, the working hours in the garment factory were quite flexible, so as a woman, it's quite easy for her to look after her children. That means my sister and me. However, she was not proud of her job. She didn't take any pleasure of her skill. At least, she never intended to teach me how to sew. Very ironically, it was my dad taught me how to use needle and thread. My mom told me, working in a garment factory, she was just like a very small component on a big production line. Her knowledge and her skill feels like were jeopardized by the repetitive work every day. She also mentioned she had ever wanted to be a writer when she was young. However, she needed to give it up because she had to work every day. On the other hand, she also recalled her dark history in her childhood. Perhaps it is one of the reasons why she wanted to go away after she grew up. When she was young, because of her political status, all of her books and things representing education were burned by the others, without reasons. Feels like all the things her family built up over the years has suddenly been destroyed. I remember my mom was her hands. Her hands was quite short and rough, but very skillful. My parents always appreciate my hands because it look quite slender, but mine is not as nimble as hers. My mom appreciates my hands. I admire her skill. My hands come from her. When I was little, my mom always held my hands. In the future, when she gets older, I think it's my time to hold her hands again. Chapter 3. Myself. Next is about me. I'm not sure you girls also get these feelings when you talk about your past generation, even though you didn't know what exactly happened to them and what drove them to move another places. It's quite easy for you to tell their stories quite clearly and confidently. But when it comes to me, it's hard to tell you why. If you ask me a concrete reason, it's because I used to study in the UK. So after graduation, after pandemic, I went back and stayed here again. Is it the only reason though? I can't tell you at this moment. When I talk about studies, my parents always support me. Just now I mentioned because they experienced some political unrest when they were young, so they couldn't go for university during that time. When we were little, we might not get the toys we want, but if I request a book, it was always available. I was born in Macau in 1980s. Today, Macau is very famous for its gambling industry, so you can see casinos and hotels everywhere. It's quite shameful, but it's true. But when I was born, we only had one casino, and our lifestyle was very, very simple and pure. I went for the same kindergarten, primary school, and high school, and I never been to Hong Kong since until I was 18 years old. It's quite weird. Why it's so close? Because before it hand over to China, we need to apply for a visa to Hong Kong. So as a working class family, it's not very affordable for their parents always pay for the visa and the tickets to go to Hong Kong just 1 to 2 days. The first time I went to Hong Kong, I remember the first impression for me was everything was very, very giant. The taxi, the traffic light were very, very big, and even the rubbish bin was very big. I realized I went to a big city at that time. I like geography. My sister also liked it, so we hung a very big world map in our room. When I daydream, I like to read every single name of the countries. Because they usually didn't show Macau, so I know Hong Kong is here. So this is East Asia. This is Southeast Asia. My granny was from there. This is Australia, India. Here is the UK and European countries. It looks quite small actually, but we always heard about their names. I really want to go there one day. Africa. Africa is also massive. I noticed the boundary between different countries are quite straight because many of them were occupied before. North America. There are so many islands on the top. Some of them belong to Canada. South America. There's another Portuguese-speaking country called Brazil, and they had a very famous rainforest called Amazon. I'm talking the real Amazon, of course. This is how I build up the concept of the world. So when I decided to resign my job and study abroad, I already got a quite stable job in Macau and everything seems quite nice in there. But I really want to see something. I wrote a letter to my dad to explain why I really want to go to the UK for studies. I said I really want to see how far my work and image can reach the people and communicate with the people, even another side of the world. My dad didn't say so much thing. Just the other day, he arranged a very rare families meeting to talk about his concerns and worries. In the meeting, my mom and my sister were very silent. My mom told me, when it comes to a topic about moving to a new place, they carry a very strong shadow within different generations. Moving to a new place, adapting to a new environment were very, very challenging. They didn't want me to go through it again. But as parents, they always support me. In a foreign country, they always wonder what can represent someone in a distant place. What can represent someone in a distant place? Their passports, their faces, their families, their friends, or their DNA in the blood, or something else. I was puzzled why the three generations, three people in my family also experienced some migration in their lives. Right now, at this moment, there are so many wars. At this moment in Gaza, in Ukraine, different political unrest, different natural disaster, causing the people move to different places, leave their hometown, leave their beloved friends and families to build up all the things again in a new place. I'm sure some of you here, perhaps your past generations or your friends around you, may experience some kind of displacement in their lives. I hope these stories can resonate with you. Here, I want to share one more thing to you. When I shared this effect on Facebook page last week, I suddenly got a woman's message. I never met her before. She told me she is my friend's mom. Unfortunately, my friend passed away in November. He mentioned my work. My friend grew up in the UK. He moved from Nepal to the UK at age 1. So basically, he couldn't get any memories about that country. But he got a very strong sense of belongings from his mom's food and their history. So he told me he also wants to share their family stories one day. I believe this is the power of storytelling. You never know how many people you will connect and what impact on them. Our grannies, our mom, as a very ordinary women, they never valued their stories. Even though they are very crucial parts in our families, their personal history were always overshadowed by a big history. But I believe that migration at least gave me some opportunities or freedom. I can share the stories to you today. And I believe their stories have eventually shaped me who I am.